Do you have obstacles from that point of view of finding a job?
No.
Much less.
Excellent. You will find that most successful people in life, and it doesn't have to be only business, in life are with high ability to communicate. So good evening to everyone. My name is Yaron. My name is Yaron Schapiro. I'm a
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm a business owner and I'm a WISE consultant. WISE is a business technology that is developed by Yaron Hubbard many years ago. And Mr. Hubbard covered everything there is to cover on business. Any aspect of business, even more. I would imagine that actually this is one of the, maybe one of the only organizational technologies. The technology is not only just business marketing and so on, it's the technology of how to run organizations. Today we'll go over something very, very fundamental that's more fundamental than business, something that is the basic for good survival. So, and I would love if you guys will join in and just, if you have questions or when I ask questions, if you just join in and give me answers. So it's more of a interactive talk than just me having a monologue. So the first thing is, what would you imagine to be the most important skill that man possesses? What is that one thing that is the most fundamental skill that man has?
I think ability to be competent.
Competence. Okay, competence is the ability to perform a skill, which is very important.
I would.
Sorry?
Maybe the ability to think.
To think, okay, that is extremely important. But again, think is something that is a subjective. I'm looking at something that's more in a skill, in an interactive skill. Yes.
Potential to be competent.
Sorry?
Potential to learn and be competent.
Okay, again, that is potential. I'm looking for a skill, something that you do, a doingness. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry?
Skill to survive.
Again?
Okay. Skill to survive.
Skill to survive. Yeah, all our actions are towards survival, correct? But that's not the one that I'm looking for. Sheila, you said something. Just say it again. Sheila, you come very... Did you say talking?
Yes.
Talking.
Communication, you mean?
Communication, correct. Communication is the most fundamental skill that we need in order to survive. And let me demonstrate this, okay? Imagine that you're going to Japan. And you're going to Japan in order to work. But you don't know one word in Japanese. How easy will it be to find a job? If you don't find an English-speaking company that needs an English or any other language except Japanese, you will probably not find a job. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Then now you're 1 year later and you know 2,000 words in Japanese. Has your chance of finding a job has improved?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, you are 5 years down and your Japanese is fluent. Do you have obstacles from that point of view of finding a job?
No.
Much less.
Excellent. You will find that most successful people in life, and it doesn't have to be only business, in life, are with high ability to communicate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. But now, communication alone, and there is a whole technology. There's a whole technology of how to communicate, and I'm not going to go into it. It's a course that you can do, and it's a technology by itself for proper communication. But that's not what we're going to go over today. Communication is a one component of understanding. Okay? When you're communicating, communication is only one component. And for me to show that to you, I will have to change screens. So when we look at understanding, we have to look at a triangle. This is a magic triangle. Why is it magic? Because if one corner will grow, so will the other corners grow. If one corner will go smaller, so will the other corners and make the triangle smaller. Okay? Does that make sense? And I will show you. The triangle has three components. So we talked about communication. Okay? Communication is the transfer of an idea from one person to another. So you have the transfer of ideas through space, where it comes from one person, arrives at another, and the other person gets the point. The other person gets the point and understands what the communication is. Another point, another side of the triangle is called affinity. Affinity is a degree of liking. Okay? Now, there's another definition for affinity. It's the ability to share space. Okay? What does it mean? Have you ever experienced, and I know that in Sweden and South Africa they did, I'm not sure about Nigeria because I didn't ask the question yet in Nigeria, but have you ever experienced that when you have an argument with someone, for example, there is a wall? This is an unseen wall, but it's a wall of energy between you and the person you had a fight with. Did you ever experience it? There's a physical wall that you find that you can't even come closer to the person you had an argument with. Has anyone else except Shaila experienced this in Nigeria? Guys, is this real to you?
Yes, it is. It has happened.
Awesome. We can explore it very soon. On the other hand, have you been once upon a time so in love, you were so in love with your partner that when you were hugging them, it wasn't close enough? Being next to them as tight as you were wasn't close enough. Have you ever had that feeling? Guys, thank you, Ellen. I need the support. Good. Okay, so what that means is that is affinity, a lot of affinity, or maybe the ultimate affinity is the ability to share the same space. You love someone so much that you can share the same space. So far, so good, guys? You understand this?
Yeah.
Awesome. The third point is reality. Okay? And when we say reality, we are referring to the physical universe that we live in and the agreement of. In other words, you all in agreement with me that each one of us is in front of some kind of screen, and currently I'm talking and you listening. Do we all in agreement on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
That means we are sharing a reality. But if one of us would be believing that instead we are in a Zoom conference, he's climbing up the Himalaya mountains together with us, we will think that he's crazy because he doesn't have a similar reality to ours. So far, do we understand? Reality is agreement. It's the degree of agreement. When we have a lot of reality, we have a lot of agreement. When there's no reality, there's just no agreement. Okay, let us see how it works. So, you have husband coming back from work home. It's their anniversary, husband and wife anniversary. Husband turns around to wife and he says, darling, I'm going out tonight with my friends to have a drink and a steak. Wife is thinking in her mind, we were supposed to go out for supper and a movie. This is our anniversary. What happened there? What happened to the reality? Do they share the same reality?
No.
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 How does wife feel at this point? Is she happy about it? She said, okay,
No.
let's go. Okay, is she happy for him to go?
No.
No. What kind of communication is he gonna get? Is he
Of course not.
Sorry? What kind of communication is he gonna get? A loving communication?
A flying pan.
A flying pan. Remind me when
Oh
I
my God.
cross you. Okay? So the communication now is an angry communication. Okay? Just that you know, war is a communication of solid objects. That's all it is. All that war is two sides communicating with solid objects. The same thing with a couple or any two people who are having a fight. It may the communication level can go down to solid. If the pan is thrown, it's gone solid. If it hasn't been thrown yet, there's still hope. So the communication now has gone down. How does the wife like him very much now? Guys, does the wife like him? How about the husband? He just received the pan. He just received the pan and he has a headache. Do you think that he likes his wife now?
No.
No. So look what happened to this triangle. The reality got broken. The triangle became smaller. The affinity went out. And the communication was a solid communication. All the corners have just shrunk because one side, the reality, went bad. Mr. Husband got his head knocked in and his memory got attached to his brain and he remembered it's their anniversary. And he says, and with a desperate attempt, he turns around to his wife and he says, wow, I was just joking with you. I was pulling your leg. Of course we're going out for supper and we're going to a movie. Now, what happens to the reality? The reality gets aligned. His reality and her reality now are together. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
So now she turns around to him and say, "Oh, you're such a tease. For a second, I got very upset. What happened to the communication? The communication has gone up. Correct? That ridge has just dropped, just gone, bam. And she walks up to him and she hugs him. She can share again the space with him. The triangle has gone big again. The reality was corrected. The communication came in, and there's lots of affinity. Does it make sense? Now,
Yeah.
there's a lot of physics here. There's actually real energy in work. What happens here is very simple. I'm sending a communication outwards. The communication is going for me and it's going outwards. Any communication sent out, whether it comes from your mouth or it goes through a TV or it goes through a news media, any communication is an energy. Okay? There's an energy that is coming out, and you on the receiving side, you interpret the energy. Now, what happens on the other side? If you have an energy that's going out and it says, "I want my way," and you have your partner or anyone else says, "No, I want my way," you have two energies that are colliding. And the more you collide and disagree, the more you build a ridge. And that is the time, and the ridge gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the more you pour disagreement into the communication.
Yaron, what is a ridge?
A ridge is just a force that is standing still. A ridge is usually combined from two forces colliding, and none of them is stronger, so they just stand fixed in the place in the middle. Does it make sense, Shayla?
Yes.
Okay, so now you have this ridge. And as long as you keep on arguing, this ridge will get bigger and bigger and bigger. You will have less and less affinity. The communication that will be coming in will be more and more solid, more and more angry, until a level that you can't communicate. The reality doesn't exist. There is no agreement. Now you have this ridge. If one of the partners or one of the two fighting will turn around and flow with the force that's coming from the other, the agreement will come back in and the ridge will just fall apart. Why? Because nothing is holding it there. And that's what happens when you agree after an argument. If you find a point of agreement after an argument or while an argument, the ridge dissolves, the argument allows you to come right, and you communicating and the affinity can come back in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So this is very, very physical, this whole triangle. Now, why is it important? Because if you understand the components, by the way, this, when you have communication in, and when you have a affinity in, and when you have reality in, you have understanding. And let me show it to you in a very simple way. Let's take a kid who is in school. He's 10 years old, and he's in maths class. He's learning some kind of maths. He has missed the previous lesson. Okay? He missed the previous lesson, and he did not get the subject that he missed. He did not study it. So what happened to his reality? They're speaking about stuff that he has no reality. Let's say, for the sake of our example, they were talking about a fracture. The teacher for the first time introduced fractures in mathematics, and he never heard the word fracture. Yes, Ellen?
A fracture or fraction?
Fraction.
Fraction. I think it's the one with the number on top and the bottom.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Fraction.
So now the teacher introduced this, okay? But he was not in the lesson. What happens to him? He has no reality about the lesson. He's not going to stop the teacher now and get the explanation. He will not be able to communicate about the subject. How do you communicate in mathematics? You just do equations. You do equations and you solve problems. That is communication in mathematics. Agreed? If he has no reality on what happens in that lesson, he won't be able to communicate about that lesson. And let me ask you this. If he can't communicate about it and he has no reality about it, will he like the lesson?
No.
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 Definitely.
And if this is not corrected then and there, the reality that he doesn't have grows. Why? Because now she's teaching another section about something he doesn't understand. So he's further reducing his reality. He's further not able to communicate in the subject of maths, and he has less and less affinity for the subject of maths. And that is no understanding of maths. And he will tell you, I'm not good at maths, I'm not interested in maths, I don't like maths. But the matter of the fact that probably in most cases, there are some other cases, he has just missed some material that caused him to have no reality about the subject. If we will go back and give him the reality about the subject, he will be able to communicate on the subject, and he will have affinity again for the subject. And this pretty much resolves most problems of education. There are a few other points that need to be resolved, but what makes, well, let me go more fundamental. When you're reading, let's say a book, okay? Let's say an educational book, and you come across a word you don't understand, that is no reality. The author reality and your reality will not be the same now, because he used the word you don't understand. If you use the word you don't understand, you could not have the same understanding that he has towards what he wrote. And if you don't go to the dictionary and look up and understand this word, you will less be able to communicate with what you're reading. And you will keep on reading, and then there will be another word you don't understand. And eventually you'll say, I don't like this book. You'll say, I don't like this subject. And the only reason is because the reality wasn't there, which brought down the communication, which brought down the affinity. But if you will go and clear every word on the way and have a full reality of what the writer wrote, you might still not like the book, but it's not because you didn't have reality. It's because the subject might not be interesting to you. But it's not out of fault of no reality.
Yaron, how do you compare this with the going back to the fight you were talking about?
Sorry, Sheila, just can you speak louder? I don't know, from you, I'm not getting it loud enough.
You were talking about the fight and then you brought in the maths. So how do you relate that to relations?
One second. Okay. Guys, give me a second. Sorry, guys. Sheila, can you repeat that?
You were talking about human relations.
Yes.
So how would you relate this particular thing to what you were talking earlier?
Okay, so human relations we have on many, many levels, okay? First of all, from the first level, what we were talking about in education, this is mostly a personal thing, a person trying to get educated. If you're struggling to get educated, then probably you have what I discussed now. You're going over words that you don't fully understand. And as a result, you don't have reality on what's happening in the written material. You're going out of communication with the written material and you're not going to like it. Okay, does it make sense? That is on a personal level, you as a person. Now there is the interaction between husband and wife, partners, and between parents and kids. In this case, it's like I said, I gave you an earlier example, but in communication, for example, if the husband is sitting and the wife is just talking, and the husband like never responds, does that ever happen? Do you guys ever notice that? Okay.
Yeah.
The fault is with the husband. The husband probably is saying, the husband is probably saying, wow, how much she can talk. She never stops. She never shuts up. Okay? Probably. Maybe, maybe not. But the problem is that the husband never acknowledges the communication. So when you're communicating to someone and he doesn't say, okay, I understood what you said, you will keep on communicating to him because he didn't say that he understood. So he's sitting there not taking note and you talking. If he turned around and he said, wow, that is amazing. Thank you for telling me. You probably will go, wow, he heard me. I don't believe it. This is the first time in 5 years he actually heard me. Okay? So for husbands, you need to acknowledge your wife when she sends a communication. If you do that, here's my thumbs up to you, and you're probably in a better relationship than others. If you don't do that, it's a good thing to start doing. So that will be regarding communication. Most times people disagree about things. In other words, reality goes out. The trick in how do I fix it is, can I see the reality of my partner? So in other words, can the husband look from the point of view of the wife, and can the wife look from the point of view of the husband? And if you be able to see their point of view, you will be able to create some agreement. If you create some agreement, you will have affinity and the communication will improve. So far, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Let's go to work. Let's look at business. Now, salespeople, if they don't understand this, then they have a problem in sales. And let me give you an example. So a salesperson walks into a potential client's office. He hears the potential client on the phone. And the potential client sounds very angry and is going, you ruined my house. You were supposed to finish the contract 2 months ago. Now everything is swamped and wet. When are you going to fix all the plumbing? And he puts the phone down. Now, if the salesperson hearing this will go up to this potential client and he will say to him, hi, I'm Yaron Schapiro. I have come for our meeting. He will probably shoot me. He will probably pick up his finger and shout, you see the door? Now get out. But if you understand this triangle, you understand that this potential client's reality is currently is that all plumbers should be put against the wall and be shot. That's his level of reality. So as a salesperson, you would turn around to him and you say, a plumber? You have a problem with a plumber, all plumbers should be put against the wall and be shot. And he will go, soulmate, thank you very much, someone understands me. That's the reality of that person that you're dealing with now. And I will give you examples of how to handle different things. But at that point in time, the only communication that this potential client needed was all plumbers should be shot. Because that was his reality. He was upset with a plumber. And if you're going to try across his upset, across his reality break, across that problem here on the reality, if you try to send any other message, it will not arrive. Not only that, it will be a communication with less reality than he has now, which will drive him even lower. And that's why he will show you the door. Do you guys get that?
Yeah.
Okay. Understanding that we have a triangle here, we can start to control communications. We can start to improve relations, and we can control what happens with us and other people. For example, how do you get a reality? Guys, how do you get another person's reality? Who has an idea? Ellen, I'm not going to give you. I'm going to allow other people.
Questions.
Sorry?
Asking questions.
Asking questions. Brilliant. I couldn't say it better. That's exactly what you do. First of all, if you're a salesperson, don't tell them about the product. Ask them questions. If you ask a lot of questions, you will find exactly what your client needs. And it may be nothing to do with the quality or the importance of the product. He might need at that point in time, just a kind word. I'll give you an example. Years ago, and we're talking a good 20, maybe 25 years ago, I was in the business of security. I had a company and we used to manufacture security gates and fences and so on. I went to see a client and I sat in front of the client, and for 2 hours, the client was complaining. He was complaining how life is bad and he's supposed to go overseas to UK now and how that is bad, and everything was bad. And for 2 hours, I just listened how everything was bad. And I didn't say much. I just listened. After 2 hours, he asked me, okay, what are we doing? So I told him I'm going to do this and this and this. He wrote a check, he gave it to me, and he went overseas. I did not sell anything. All the client needed, his reality now was that he needs someone to listen to how bad life is. And that was the sale. Around the same time, I went to see a lady client, and her husband not long ago passed away. And I had a lot of reality as I grew without a father. My father passed away when I was young, so I could relate to her. And I knew very much what she's going through. And we had a very good reality and then affinity and communication between us. It was so good that she signed the deal then and there. And when I walked out, my next competitor was outside, but he never got the chance to pitch. And again, just the reality was there. She didn't need anyone more. Okay? Many times I try to understand both at work and in my personal life and in any capacity, I try to understand the reality of the person opposite me. And that leads 99.9% to good results. I'll give you another example. So I was driving on one of the main roads of Cape Town, and I took a right turn and it was a red light. And the police officer was straight after me. He stopped me on the side. I rolled down the window and he says to me, "You drove through a red light." And I said to him, "No, it was green." And as I say that, I realize I'm destroying the component of reality. His reality is that I drove in a red light. It doesn't matter what I will do to disagree with him, it will just cause a bigger ridge and I will get more into trouble with the officer. So immediately I backed away from that strategic plan of arguing with him that it was green. And I turned around to another piece of technology and I said to him, "You know, you're a very good guy. You're gonna help me now." And he said to me in a grumpy voice, "No, I'm not a good person." And I said, "No, you're a good man. You're a good man." And for 5 minutes, I was convincing him that he was a good man. Now inside, he has a reality that he would like to believe that he's a good man. And as I was pushing that reality down at him, eventually he could have it. We came to an agreement that he's a good person. He proved it by letting me go. And we had a lot of affinity, reality, and communication there. Okay? There's not one thing that you can't solve with this technology. Many times using this technology, I managed to turn the odds against me by understanding which component I have to increase. Okay, guys, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone has questions regarding this?
So
No.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just taking you a step back, when you mentioned about the person at the previous example about reality, not police, about the education and where you gave the mathematical example.
Okay.
Okay, let me not hold you back. You go ahead. I'm just trying to recollect the word you used, but it was related to the maths, the education and relationship.
Okay, so we had the kid, they had the kid and he had a misunderstood, in this case, he had a misunderstood on the word fraction and he couldn't, have a reality on it. And as a result, he couldn't communicate in maths and his affinity towards the subject was reduced. That was the example.
Okay, no problem.
Does it make sense?
I'll come back. It's not my exact question. We'll come back to that.
Is it got to do to the affinity, reality, and communication?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, after the kid, you gave an example where you said that you need to walk away or you have to come to an agreement.
So you have to walk away or?
Come to an agreement.
Right.
I think it was, you used the spark. Is it? Anyway, you go ahead. I'll come and ask you this question.
Okay, maybe I can ask you a different way. What problem are you trying to solve? What is that you're trying to work out?
So basically, there was an example you gave where you have to walk. You said we need to come into agreement.
Yes.
In your previous example.
Okay.
And I felt that maybe there is an option of not really just coming into agreement, but maybe having an option of discussing the issue in a different way.
Okay, but for what end would you discuss the issue? For what purpose?
Sorry?
For what purpose will you discuss the issue?
I'm just trying to recollect now.
Wouldn't it be to get an agreement?
To get an agreement, yes.
Okay, so that's right. So you would discuss the, one second, Ellen. You would discuss the issue to get an agreement. Okay.
Yes.
A good way to do it, if you have a person who, for example, it's difficult to come to an agreement, you don't see eye to eye, one of the ways is to try to see what he sees, what reality he comes from. Okay, let me give you an example. You have let's take Israel for example. You have a Muslim community and you have a Jewish community, and they both believe that they have the right over a piece of land. Does it make sense so far?
Yeah.
If they only see their right over the piece of land, you have war. You never come to an agreement. If you have Muslim, and you do have Muslims and Jews that can put themselves in the shoes of their counterparts. If a Jew can go and see, okay, listen, this Muslim person has been living here and his father's been living here and his grandfather has been living here and they've been in this country for approximately, I don't know, 2,000 years. And before us Jews arrived 200 years ago or something of the sort, they pretty much were here alone. I can see that. I can see that he has a claim on the country. And vice versa, if the Muslim can say, okay, so the Jews were many years in history were here and then they went away for some time, but they were persecuted all over the world and then they were given this piece of land to have a state for the sake of protection. You know, if you could have each side look from the point of view of the other side, then you will come to an agreement. So you could do it in asking questions and trying to understand what the other side is going through. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, easily said than done. And the idea is that at the end of the day, you can't get into an agreement because you will always, if you're already in disagreement, how do you convert that into an agreement? Even if you ask questions. So the typical example you gave of Jewish and Muslim,
Okay.
they're never going to be in agreement most of the time. So would they really give you the right answer?
There's no agreement. There's no agreement there in partly, because the majority and the quiet majority who are not making noise are very happy to just live in harmony with each other. And I can say that from first hand because I've lectured to over 25,000 students in Israel, and many of them were Muslims. And I can tell you that, let's say on every 1,000 students, Muslim students that I taught, maybe 20 or 30 were problematic. And when there was a problematic situation, someone very problematic was igniting the situation. So the point is that there's a lot of noise by the ones who are not willing to agree. But that is we are shifting away from the point of ARC because there's other technology that going in. But just to say, if you're in a disagreement with someone,
yeah,
and you have his reality, really have his reality, like I told you, put yourself in his shoes. You will find the way to get him slowly to come towards you. So let's say you have a business argument with someone, okay? You're in an argument with someone, and he believes that let's say that he wants to sell you a business. He believes that his business is worth 2 million US, and you think it's 1.5 million US, and you can't come to an agreement. Okay? Now, if I'm the buyer, I can try and think from his point of view. Okay, so I think from his point of view, he's been running this business for 25 years. He's put his soul, he's put his effort, he's put so much into this business. This is not only money that I'm dealing with. So if I tell him that his business is not worth 1.5 million, I have a problem here. Does it make sense? So yeah. I need to start to tell him what a good job he's done, and really I can see that his business has much more value than money. But I have to get him to see at the same time that I can't afford to take this business over at 2 million, only at 1.5 million. Can you see that there is room to find a solution. And I'll give you maybe a real live example. So I'm in the import business. I have a brand in South Africa. We're probably the biggest lamp seller in South Africa. Okay. And we do a lot of forwarding. Forwarding is the shipment of goods on the sea. And we needed to fly something in because there was a contract and the supplier was late. And we had to fly something in. And we asked from the people who give us the service of flying stuff in, we asked for a price. And we get a price, and the price was amazing. This was a good price. And we said, done deal, solves all our problem. We take a bit of a knock on the product, but it's doable. And we flew in the product. When the product came in, we got a bill that was 6 times the size of the estimate. Now, you can imagine that no one's happy about that. So we called in the owner of the company, of our forwarder, and we have a long history. And first of all, we had a meeting with a lot of respect and a lot of caring for each other. So it was communicated in a good way. But what I did is I went through and I told him, you know, every businessman sometimes make mistakes. And you look to me like you are doing some kind of work and you can appreciate that. So every businessman makes mistakes. And sometimes these mistakes are painful. But that's part of running a business. Now, because he experienced... Okay, sorry guys, I'm back. Yeah, something fell on our network. I apologize. Did we lose a couple?
Over here.
No,
I don't think so.
Okay,
Good.
what was the last thing you heard that I said? I have a feeling I was speaking to myself for some time. We were
talking, meeting with the freight forwarders.
Yes. Okay. So what I was telling him, I was reminding him that every businessman makes mistakes, and on these mistakes, we pay the cost of the mistakes. Sometimes we learn. If we good businessmen, we make much less mistakes than successes, and then we are successful. And for about an hour, I was showing him in a very friendly manner that all that happened here is one of the mistakes of the business. In this case, his business. And as he's an honorable businessman, he will take responsibility for that. And I was asking a lot of questions, leading him and showing him. And when we walked out, he was very happy. He paid the entire bill, but he walked out and he said, I don't understand why I'm so happy while I'm paying the entire bill.
Wow.
And the point is that I was using ARC. I understood that I have to increase his reality to a high level. He can accept the point that this is going to cost him. Because he really wanted to take responsibility for his mistake. And I had to make the pain of the money less than him taking responsibility for the mistake. And when that was achieved, it all worked. And by the way, don't feel bad for him, because he just got from me yesterday a whole new contract. So he has done the right thing. So yesterday we renewed the contract that we weren't doing business for about 6 months. And yesterday, because I have a lot of respect for him, he came for a new meeting. And yesterday we signed a new contract. So it was the right action to do from his point of view. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing is to practice this ARC. And I guarantee you, you're not going to get it right from day one. But every time when you do something wrong, you're going to go, oh, I was out communication. I didn't communicate properly. Oh, I didn't have enough affinity for that person. Oh, my reality regarding that person wasn't good enough. And that can be between parents and children. that can be between husband and wife or partners. It can be in the business, in any kind of thing. Guys, here's the problem. We all know President Trump, right? President Trump is also a celebrity in Nigeria, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The only problem this guy has, he is lacking communication with affinity and reality to his people. That's the only problem. He's a brilliant operator. He gets things done. USA, from an economy point of view, has never been so good like in his regime. He just doesn't know how to speak to people. He doesn't know to give them, he doesn't know how to speak to them with affinity. He doesn't know how to get their reality. And as a result, he breaks people's confidence in him because he speaks with bad communication towards them. So the communication goes out, the reality goes out, the affinity goes out, and a lot of people think he's bad. He's not bad, he's brilliant, he just doesn't know how to communicate. If someone could fix his ability to communicate, and he would communicate with ARC, ARC is just short for affinity, reality, and communication, you would have an unbelievable president. Since I don't think he will learn from anyone because it's not in his nature, so at least it doesn't seem like it's in his nature. So many people will keep on disliking him because he's not going to communicate with ARC. But the truth of the matter, we look for results in a president more than anything else, and he is giving results. Any other questions on the subject? And it's guys, this is the fundamental of how we operate on this planet. This is us as whatever you think yourself as a being, okay? Whatever you think yourself as that part of you that's operating your body. This is how we operate on the planet, with affinity, reality, and communication that brings about understanding. Everything that we do is with those three components, whether we know it or we don't. When we know and control it, we do things much better and we are much more successful. If we don't control it because we don't know it, we make many mistakes. Any questions?
I'm quite clear with that.
Okay. Anyone had some realizations in this session? Anyone said suddenly understanding?
Yes, really profound. Really, I realize now where I've been going wrong.
Okay, and let me share something with you. You can fix it. With this technology, you can fix any broken relationship. And if we were doing a live seminar, if this was happening in a seminar and not over Zoom, we would be doing drills, and I would drill you at this. And one of the drills would to find a scene in your life that something went wrong in a relationship and you want to fix. And with this tool, you would find out what went wrong. Was it reality? Was it communication? Was it affinity that went wrong? And when you find out which of these three was the first part that went out, that's the one you go and correct, and the other two will come back.
Yeah.
And I had relationships of many years that are destroyed, come back and become very good relationships as a result. And Mel, that's an awesome realization. Well done.
We'll definitely give it a try.
Awesome. I would love to hear how it comes out. Anyone else wants to share?
I just have a question.
Yes.
Between the three, like affinity, reality, and communication, could it be that, if it could be situational also, like you said that there was a communication problem with one of the business guys, and that's why though he was doing very well, but could it be situational, like at certain point of time, it is communication, and with other, like if it's a different incident, it's affinity, or could it be like that, or is it only one particular thing?
No, it could be
I don't know if
communication. It's definitely could be communication. So in other words, if I'm someone that stutters, if you have to speak to me for 15 minutes, you won't have affinity for me. Okay? The speed of communication, how fast the communication comes. Some people speak very fast and you can't understand anything they say, and it's pretty irritating because you lose half of what they say. Or, I speak too soft, I can't hear you. Or I speak too loud. That is part of a communication course, to know how to communicate. By the way, communication is senior. Communication is senior to affinity and reality, because you solve affinity and reality through communication. But Minu, does it make sense? Each one of these triangles can go out. So communication definitely can go out. When a person's communication, let's say he speaks with a very heavy accent that you don't understand. You know, if he has a very heavy accent, that can irritate the hell out of you. Why? Because you don't understand. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. Actually, what I wanted to know was, like you said, it was, I'm not talking about any particular situation, but I'm just talking like if a person has, you know, at one point of time, he's, you know, the problem in the relationship is because of the communication. But on if it's another instance, it could be because of reality, or it could be because, so it's not only one particular thing which can go wrong in any case. That's what I wanted to ask, and I think I've got my answer. Thank you.
Yeah, each encounter can be any one of these points of the triangle. I mean, it could be that one time the partner comes in after a rough day. He's really had a bad day, and he's coming in a emotion level of anger, and he turned around to his partner, and he didn't mean that, but his communication was an angry communication. Obviously, the partner, meantime, doesn't have reality of why do I deserve an angry communication where all I did was being polite to you and asking how you're doing. We say that's an ARC break. There's an ARC break because of the communication. Okay, something between affinity, reality, and communication is broken. To make it short, we call it an ARC break. So in this case, the ARC break was communication. It could be that you walk into a room and that this person just smells bad. I don't know. He did some sport and he didn't wash after that, and he just smells awful. At that point, the affinity is out. So you won't want to come close to him. Now he feels it and he starts to get upset. And so that could also cause the ARC to go broken. Sometimes you don't know the person and you just don't like him. Something about him doesn't make you feel comfortable. That will be just straight an ARC break because of affinity. You don't want to share the same space with him. You don't know why. You never spoke to him. You don't know him from a bar of soap. You just saw him visually. Something there has caused you not to have affinity for him. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Did you guys ever have the movie called My Big Greek Wedding or something of the sort? Did you ever see a movie of that sort?
My big fat Greek wedding.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Did you ever see such a movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if anyone who's seen the movie, if you remember in the beginning of the movie, the main actress, the star, she was ugly. In the beginning of the movie, she was ugly. She was dressed not nice. I think she even had a mustache. She even didn't shave her upper lip. She just didn't look nice. But as the movie continues, she starts to communicate, and you start to get reality who she is, and you start to get reality of where she comes from. And by the end of the movie, she's beautiful. And that is just when you came in, you had no affinity for the person, but through communication and through more reality, your affinity for that person grew. Does it make sense? And guys, the most important component to understand is communication, because everything is done by communication. Getting the reality is done by communication. Sorting out affinity is done by communication. And there are courses and tools that deal exactly with communication. Any other questions? Okay. Good. Shayla, you want to say something? I think, Ellen, there was something on the chat.
Yeah, there's a lot on the chat.
Okay, so let's handle the chat. So what we have?
Okay, so there was from Shayla, starting with the most recent. From Shayla, thanks so much. And from Christopher, thanks, Mr. Schapiro, for these fundamental principles. Really appreciate.
Awesome.
And before that, okay, this is, if I read it now, it's going to sound non sequitur because it was from Shayla in a different context.
Okay. So yeah.
Okay, I think Shayla can just explain what.
Well, Shayla, is this handled for you?
I was just saying, when you were talking about Trump and not being able to change, I said that could apply to all of us.
Totally. Awesome. Anyone else? Okay. So guys, it was my pleasure. I really enjoyed this. Sorry?
There's one more comment from Kelechi. The little time that I spent here is mind-blowing.
Awesome. So thank you for spending little time with us, and next time let's spend a lot of time together and we'll have much more reality and affinity for each other. Awesome.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
A pleasure. Take care and have an awesome week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.